Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thanks so much for tuning in to what is going to be a review of the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. Actually, the whole Heat collection that they are coming out with here, as well as swatches and comparisons to other similar palettes. As you can see on my hand, if you see that flashed on the screen, that's what that is. Those are comparison swatches there. So that will be coming up here as well. And then if you are interested, stay tuned till the end or just fast forward if that's really why you're here, to learn how you can win all three of the original-ish Naked palettes, Naked 1, 2, and 3. And before we even dive into anything, if you are new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you join the Bailey Bunch and never miss a video. Let's go ahead and get started. So the brand actually sent this entire collection to me. There have been some surprising criticisms, I think, from what I've seen of it. So I'll definitely be addressing some of those, or at least those that I've heard, as much as I can in the video. This retails for $54. The case is beautiful graphic, very similar to the Naked Smoky palette, where it's at that hard casing, rectangular, and just, like I said, very pretty graphics on the outside. Pretty standard Naked palette format. You get a nice big mirror in here, and then it comes with a brush. This is unlike any brush I've ever had in a Naked palette. I say that because I know they've made some swaps in the past for like liners and brushes, and so I'm pretty sure that's the only one, but I honestly can't remember, and so I just want to say that up front, that it's unlike any brush that I have tried from a Naked palette. On one end you have a tapered, kind of fluffier crease brush, but it's still pretty narrow, so you can do some more detailed, like lower lash line work or more precise crease work. And then on the other end here you have what's kind of a fluffy flat shader. It's flat, so it's pretty good for packing on that shadow, but it's also kind of fluffy here to get, like, kind of fluff the shadow out throughout the crease as well. I actually did that and used this in creating this look today, but I'm not sure I'm going to put the demo in this video because I kind of want to do like a 3 or 4-in-1 look video using this palette, because even if you don't get this particular one, I'm going to talk about some palettes with very similar looks, and just in general in the summer especially, I feel like this is a very relevant, useful color palette to have, so I think I want to include it in one of those videos instead, but you'll still see swatches and all that kind of stuff here. Now you get to the inside of the palette. Let's go through the shades. I mean, at face value, it's a really great shade range. One of my biggest criticisms of the Naked 3 palette, and something I was worried about with this when seeing the pictures, is there wouldn't be enough contrast amongst the shades. What I keep running into with the Naked 3, even though it's a beautiful palette, is that they might as well have condensed it into like a 6 shadow palette, because a lot of the shades lack difference in between them. So I find that I can use any combination, you know, like different combinations of shades across the palette and still come up with the same look, is what I'm saying. Like, they should have put more variety in there to really make it worth its price tag. And so that's what I was a little worried about with this, but I'm pretty happy to say that shade range and texture wise, there's a lot of great variety in here. So let's first start off on the lighter end of the spectrum. First up is Ounce. This is light cream with a high shine satin borderline metallic finish, I would say. Like, I think it can be built up to get a really nice, good shine. Also a great facial highlighter. Next up is Chaser, and it is a light, soft, neutral brown, as in it doesn't lean too cool or too warm like a lot of the matte browns, or a lot of the shades period in this palette do. Sauced is a slightly deeper matte brown. It does have more of a warm undertone. And then the next shade is Low Blow, which again is an even deeper brown, but I would say it's like cooler yellow undertones compared to a lot of the warmer red undertones that a lot of the other shades in this palette have, period. Up next is Lumber, and at first I thought this was going to be like a typical pink base with that gold shift to it, but the base really is more like a deep red that kind of gets lifted and lightened a lot by that gold shift, but the base is a lot deeper than your regular run-of-the-mill like peachy pink with a gold shimmer. It's a lot deeper, has a little bit more body than your average pinky gold shift. Then there's He Devil, that's a nice deep brown with a pretty strong ruddy orange undertone. And then Dirty Talk, which is almost the metallic version of He Devil, really. It's like that same deep rusty red brown, but with this incredible high shine metallic finish. The next shade up is Scorched, and by contrast, at first in the pan they look very similar, but swatched, Scorched has more of a cool, it sounds very weird to say because it looks like a coppery orange, but it has this interesting cool undertone, which to me doesn't sound like it would go with copper or orange at all, but just trust me, it does. It's like a taupey orange. Very weird, but very interesting. Then Cayenne is another mid-tone to deep brown. This one is slightly cooler. It leans way less orange than He Devil, followed by Enfuego, which is a beautiful deep berry brown. And then next up is Ashes, which is a smoky plum, followed up by Ember, which is another one of my favorite shades in this palette because swatched, it is far more complex than I ever thought it would be in the pan. In the pan, it looks like a pretty basic, you know, like brown metallic shadow, but swatched, you can see that it actually has this really beautiful blackened base. And then over top of it is this purpley taupe high shine metallic, like overlay. I don't know, it's very dimensional and it's just far more complex as a shadow when worn than it looks in the pan. Like I said, all of those shades together to me create a lot of great contrast that will give you a lot of different looks, especially the way they incorporated the mixture of reds and oranges and brownie reds, and then you get into the berries and purples even over here. So if you find yourself getting too muddied in these like mid-tone red coppery colors, you can really add some depth and some interest with these deeper berries and chocolatey browns over here. The other thing that I like, and that I think Urban Decay has kept up from the smoked palette, if I am remembering that correctly, is the number of matte shades they are including in their palettes. One of the biggest complaints I can remember with the Naked 1 and 2 is how few matte shades there were in there, and at the time those were some amazing matte shadows. This palette's no different. They've included 7 matte shades in here, which is the majority, and I think kind of rare for the Urban Decay Naked palette series. So I think that also is going to make this palette a lot more wearable for some who might look at this and think, yeah, there's no freaking way I'm going to wear these coppers and these bright, you know, high shine metallic finishes. It's just way too much. But if you really take out the matte shadows in here, I think it makes it overall less intimidating, but then you still get those really fun metallic and shimmery shadows to play with. In terms of shadow quality, I found it to be just as consistent with the other palettes in the Naked series, even given that some of the major criticisms that I'd heard of this were that they were, you know, chalky or patchy, you know, lots of fallout. I didn't personally experience that with any of these shades. The one that kind of maybe performed a little off, like I got a little bit of skipping when I used, was He Devil, but nothing that like a little bit of blending can do. Oh, and I should say, I'm not wearing any primer today. I've just been forgetting to apply it, and I am impressed with the pigmentation. Since I don't think I'm going to include a tutorial in this, I will tell you that I used a couple of these deeper shades up here, some of these in the crease, and then on my lid itself, I am using Scorched right in the center of the lid, and I'm impressed. Not gonna lie. It didn't take any amount of excessive blending or working with to get these shadows to behave and act really nicely over primed eyes. Of course, you're gonna get a longer lasting time and even more pigmentation than this if you have a primer, but I'm not unhappy with this. Then the other thing that I had heard some people talk about is the originality of the shade combination and how there might be other palettes out there that were very similar enough to where you might not need this palette. So now I wanted to go into the palettes that I personally have to compare them to, because I saw these as shown as specific examples, but I don't personally think they're anywhere near duping this palette. The first of which is the Mad for Matte 2. Clearly this is not. Let me see if I can get them side by side. Clearly this is not a dupe, just because the Mad for Matte from e.l.f., although being on a whole different price level from the Urban Decay, is an entirely matte palette. Is this doing anything for anyone? I hope so. I can see where the similarity, like the thought of a similarity came in, because it has the warm, the neutrals, orangey, even down on here, the purpley and plum end of things. Like there's definitely an alignment of color patterns, but the Mad for Matte is entirely matte, and obviously that was redundant, but you're missing out on all of the additional texture that the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette has. The next similar palette, although in a more abbreviated form, would be the Smashbox Cover Shot Ablaze eyeshadow palette, which I absolutely love. Again, you look at face value, looks like it could be very similar because it includes those plum, a kind of burgundy plum tones. You have your rich burnt oranges and your golden tones and some of your neutrals, but in reality, this palette lacks a whole lot of those mid-tone matte browns. It lacks the copper shade because this really has a true berry by comparison, and then this one is a matte burnt orange. Whoa, okay, this could be the worst idea ever, but we'll do it in the name of a good review. So yeah, while it might seem like a more condensed version of this, and there are definite similarities, again, I don't think owning this Smashbox palette should stop you from getting the Urban Decay if you know that you love and will use the heck out of some warm tone, orangey brownie shadows. Now on to the palette that might actually give the Urban Decay Naked Heat the closest run for its money, is the Morphe 350 palette. I mean, look at all these warm, bronzy oranges over here. The shade with the strongest similarities here are actually these two at the bottom. This one personally is the star of the show for me, but both of them are very similar to the metallic copper in this Heat palette. You can actually see a comparison of those on the back of my hand. They are the the orangey metallics up and down here. So you can see the kind of similar, there are very subtle nuances, like I wouldn't say they are exact dupes, but you know, in the sense that you could be able to get away wearing them in a look and someone not being able to tell a difference by looking, yeah, probably. But then over here you can see some of the deeper matte orangey neutrals, which again are all up and down along this side, a little bit over here. Couldn't really find any that closely duped the neutrals in the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette, and what I actually found in this comparison is that the Morphe 350 palette has a lot more cooler neutral browns, whereas the Heat has a lot more warmer neutral browns. Additionally, the 350 completely lacks the berry and plum that the Urban Decay Naked Heat has. So to the extent that all you really want is a good fiery orange, you know, both metallic and matte, the 350 is going to give you that, but I do think that the Urban Decay Naked Heat offers a little something different and special in the way that it combines not only the rusts and the orange and the neutrals and shimmers, but also the berry and the plum on this end as well. Long story short, I personally really like the Urban Decay Naked Heat palette. I think it's worth it, and the quality is consistent with that of all the other Naked palettes. If this palette struck your fancy when you first saw it, but you just were still on the fence because of what you'd heard about it, I really recommend it. From similar palettes that I have, I still find the shade combination in the Heat palette to warrant having it, even if you still find that you have that crossover. So yeah, overall, if this like caught your eye right when it first came out and you're just on the fence for whatever reason, I would personally recommend it. All right, now let's hit up the eyeliners. Like I said, hopefully I said this earlier. If not, I'll say it now. I don't know if these are limited edition. The wording on the information that Urban Decay gave me was a little confusing, where they said, with our sultriest Naked palette yet, plus a limited edition Vice lipstick capsule collection and 2 shades of 24/7 glide on eye pencils to match. It was kind of unclear to me whether the limited edition, it was kind of confusing to me whether the limited edition adjective applied to just the lipstick capsule or both the glide on lip pencil. I'm sure that is more a fault of my understanding of, you know, grammar and such, but there it is. So first up is Alkaline, which I'm wearing on my waterline right now. This had a surprising red undertone to it, so I would be a little careful because I do find that if I don't really layer it up and get it opaque, that reddy berry undertone becomes more apparent, and sometimes that can make you look a little sickly, especially if you already have pronounced redness in your eyes. It can bring that out even more. That said, it's a really beautiful smoky plum. Then there is Torch, which is an interesting, it's a matte burnt orange, and I love that it's matte. At first I thought it was going to be very similar to, is it called Penny, I think they have, or they used to have it, and it was basically like this, but metallic and shimmery. Beautiful, but I found that especially if you wore it on the upper lash line, it became pretty much invisible. So this has a lot more of like a deeper base. Okay, I'll show you a closer since this really isn't doing anything for the swatch. It has more of a deeper base to it, and so it not only shows up as a liner, but I think I would love to try this as an eyeshadow base. Hopefully I can get to that in that 3 or 4-in-1 tutorial video. And then it's also good just to add a little bit of smudging on the lower lash line as well. But overall, no complaints about the formula or the shade. They are true in quality to the normal 24/7 formula. They glide on super smoothly, very pigmented at first swipe, but also super easy to build up, and you get a little bit of time to work with it and kind of smudge it out if you are wanting to use it as an eyeshadow base, or you're just wanting to create a super smoky wing. Then once it's set, it's pretty much set. You're not gonna have to worry about it moving throughout the day. And last are the lipsticks. I'm gonna first start with the shade that I am wearing right now, which is Fuel. It is the neutral shade in this collection. I really like the capsule they put together. Honestly, it's a good mixture of the neutral, right? If you wanna go like super deep and smoky on the eyes and downplay the lips, this is a great complement to it. At first I was a little concerned that it's too orangey peachy for my skin tone, like it might be a little too warm, but the more I wear it, the more I'm getting used to it. And personally, this is one of my favorite finishes in the Vice formula because it's so creamy and opaque with one swipe. I just never had to worry about streaks or uneven wearing or discomfort when wearing these. It's a really good formula. Yeah, this is a cream finish, like I said, in the shade Fuel. The next two lipsticks have a metallized finish, the first of which is Scorched. This is a beautiful bronzy brown. I find that the shimmer or the metal shift in here is the exact same shade as the bronze base. Overall, it applied smoothly, evenly with nice pigmentation, and in general, I find that the Vice collection I get around, 3.5 to 4 hours worth of wear, depending on how much, wear and tear I put on my lips, what I'm eating, drinking, etc. And this one in particular stayed comfy on my lips. The same can't be said, even though this is my favorite shade amongst the three, I'm not bananas about the way it wears. This is the shade Heat. It is this gorgeous, deep, fiery orange-red base with an amazing gold flecked shift. but it has a gritty texture. I think it's due to those gold flecks. And then once the red has worn off, you definitely have that golden shimmery texture in your fine line. So that will stay there for a lot longer than the actual pigment here will. And this, between the two metallized finish that come in this collection, not only was that gritty texture there, but also it just was a little streaky on the application. So it took a lot of working with, or more, not a lot, but more working with and building up to kind of get it looking where I wanted it to look. So overall, I have to say my favorite shade in here is definitely the cream fuel shade. Okay, so those are my thoughts. That's everything I have to think about the new Urban Decay Naked Heat collection. Now onto how you can win the Naked 1, 2, and 3 palette. They actually sent these to me as well when they sent me the new fragrance that it's a limited edition release that they came out with. They sent me that and happened to include all of these in here as well. I already own these. I purchased them myself, and for as much as I love them, well, at least the 1 and 2, I don't need duplicates of them because I have too much makeup. So I wanted to give them away to you guys, and the only way that you need to enter is to comment down below letting me know what look you want to see. If I were to do a 3 or 4-in-1 look in one video tutorial using the Naked Heat palette, what kinds of looks would you want to see? Neutral everyday, hot and smoky, you know, maybe plummy and smoky. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to subscribe or just hit that bell to make sure you get notifications every time I upload. It's open worldwide. The contest will end 2 weeks from now, where I will pick a comment at random from down below and I will comment to you directly. I'm not going to announce it formally in like a post or a video or anything like that, because I find that tends to draw a lot of people who aren't actually the winner messaging me pretending to be the winner. You get the idea. So I am going to comment directly down to you in this comment section below. So 2 weeks from now, look out for your notifications, and then that is where I will ask you to message me directly so that I can ensure it ties back to the exact same YouTube account. But that's all you have to do. Just leave a comment down below and make sure you are subscribed. That is it from me. Those are my thoughts on the Naked Heat collection. Really hope this was helpful if you were on the fence about any of these products or just wanting to learn more. This video was able to help you make your decision one way or the other. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye guys.